Massive hit. Oh, they've clipped. Off. How he held on to that, I don't know. This is the biggest crash in RGL history. He's out of control and into the wall. Brace yourselves, this is going to be action-packed. Hi and welcome to the RGL Forza Championships for 2013, and this is the final round, round 10 of the series, and we'll be having a bit of a gap before any more start up in 2014. Mind you, it'll be a lot different. This will be the final full race replay that we'll be producing, at least for a while, taking a bit of a break from doing these. But let's talk more about the race ahead. Interesting to note, the qualifying, there were some penalties applied out of the qualifying from the previous round at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, where some drivers engaged in I suppose driver etiquette, poor driver etiquette, and I believe 6 of them were unable to or disallowed to qualify for this. So you're going to see a very different lineup for the grid to start off the race. And the final race is at Hockenheimring, and it's a full circuit, so we've got that hairpin there at turn 6, which is always a bit of a hairy one. Heavy under brakes after going top speeds is always a bit of a tough one for drivers to judge braking lines and distances between each other, so look out, there's possibly some action coming up on that corner. So let's have a look at this. We've got Twistie Corners with the championship in the bag, and also finishing off the season with yet another pole position, and it's a lockout with Australian Precision Racing Team for Victoria, with you watching there in P2, and Gundam Go Hard in P4, so you can see the differences here. Highboy, Scavenger in 6, Queensland Rum Runner. That's the first 7 that were able to participate in qualifying, and then as you can see, Fear Bretley and the rest of the guys that are about to pop up were all involved in the penalties with Catters, Recoil, Ultimo, Ninja. So we're missing Pistol Fit and Jake Mo from this, and we would have had Relentless as well had he qualified and participated in the season, but he's not here, so that's our field. Those drivers starting from the rear of the grid, effectively based on their championship standings at the time, so that's what sorted their order out. Well, let's get underway. This is going to be an exciting race. You've got fast drivers sitting mid-pack to the back end of the pack. What's going to happen here? They all light them up. Everybody's away. Twistie with a great jump, and it looks like Gundam's got a bit of a jump on your watch, and going into this shallow right-hander, it's very tricky. A few cars, I think it's Go Hard going out wide, so he's obviously lost a couple of spots straight up, or one at the moment, and Bretley has made some huge grounds. He's a bit of contact with Gundam. That's pushed him wide a little bit, and Go Hard out on the dirt again, so he's dropping way back. And here we go, all the way down to turn 6. The hairpin is following you watching at the moment, and Twistie well up. Oh no, Gundam's been spun around or sideways, and everybody making some evasive action. Meanwhile, Highboy and you watching still battling it out, and Highboy gives you watching a bit of room to take that corner. Please note, Ninja is not in his traditional livery. A bit of a glitch with the footage. Sees him in the Irwin Tools Falcon instead of the HD Motorsport, so apologies for that. We do like to provide unique liveries for all of our teams and drivers. Meanwhile, your watching is getting hounded by Highboy under a lot of pressure here. Your watching hasn't had the speed that he probably had last year, hasn't been able to replicate that. so much, but also Highboy and Recoil, who's right behind his teammate there, have proven to be pretty quick drivers, so he's going to have his hands full with these guys, and you can just see them making inroads. And Highboy's got a bit of a run on you watching. Is he going to go for a move? No, he pulls back a bit there and tries not to lose any ground because he's getting the hurry up from his teammate in Recoil. Meanwhile, Twistie Corners set a very fast standing lap. Oh, Highboy on the move on the inside. We're just going with you watching from the back of his vehicle. And there's Highboy, so he's managed to get a better run out of that turn. Highboy must have lost a bit of traction because now Recoil is looking to make the move on his teammate. Under brakes. And it looks like Recoil's got it. He's pushed you watching a bit wide. Oh, contact with Highboy and Recoil. Teammates and Recoil sort of fallen out of that, so almost a successful move into second place. Couldn't quite pull it off. Meanwhile, Catters side by side, and you're watching taking the lead. You're watching giving a bit of a clip, and now you're watching drop from second down to about fifth. Meanwhile, steady as she goes, Twistie Corners way out in the lead now after all of that fighting with the pack. That has allowed him to get well away from them, and you can see there the gap back to second, third, fourth. The rest of the field fairly well spread out. Let's have a look at what this replay is. So here is Gundam going into turn 6, and looks like Bretley's just come in just a tad too hot. Gundam did make some contact with Recoil there, but I don't think that was enough to cause any issues, so Bretley just a little bit too deep under brakes. And meanwhile, now we have Catters all over the back of Highboy. Ninja chasing down Recoil. We've got a lot of action going on here. Twistie, the next fastest lap. So remembering Catters and Recoil starting from, I believe, positions 9 and 10. So they've obviously managed to get through a lot of the field during the early stages of this race. We have got 10 laps, so on lap 3 at the moment. Pit lane is open, and strategies will start to play a part here, especially with this core group with 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. And get our heads around this now. So you can see Catters and Recoil jumping up 6 places each. Ninja up by 7 and Elsima up 5. Meanwhile, Scavenger's lost a spot. Go Hard, he had a bad run at the start, losing the effect on corner 2. Seen him drop back 4 places. And your Watchins opted to pit very early, who was in the lead of this pack that we're watching now. And Gundam, probably the most unfortunate one out of the lot. He was in a very good position before that spin out at turn 6, and he dropped back 7 places to P10. So he's got a long race ahead of him now. And it looks like Highboy's managed to get a gap on Catters. Recoil coming at Catters, and Ninja not far behind. And now on board with the Screwdriver Racing Team Young Gun in X-Catters. Twistie taking another 400ths of a second out of his last lap time. Low 145s now. And so much ground can be made up on this turn just here if drivers are going to be risky enough to brake heavily and as deep as possible. And you can see there Catters all over the back of Highboy. Highboy had plenty of gap on him. Looking to the outside, that's not really going to work, and he's a bit too far back to make any pass on Highboy just a moment, and they're all cutting that corner huge amounts. And Highboy just going a little bit wide on the exit. Well, this is great racing. We've seen all series with 4 cars involved, all not giving each other an inch, and here you can see Recall all over the back of Catters, letting him know he's there. Oh, Highboy, very untidy. Meanwhile, Recall and Ninja have had enough. They feel like they're getting held up. Into the pit lane they go at the halfway mark of the race. Meanwhile, Catters was not able to capitalise on Highboy's little mistake, and just a small gain on his previous fastest lap there for Twistie Corners. So he's all alone up the front of the field, and look at Catters just putting a bit of Morse code on Highboy's rear bumper. These two are a bit of ebb and flow, one getting the gains and then making some sort of mistake and falling back a bit. And he's definitely trying his best to put the pressure on Highboy here. He's not letting go of the Twistie Motorsport Ford. And now it's Catters' turn to go very wide. It's kept giving him a bit of momentum heading into the next turn, but Highboy more than up to the challenge, and you could see back there in the background Elsimo not too far behind, and he started towards the very end of the field, so he's got some clear track space. If he can put enough laps, he is catching these guys, and he probably will. Oh, Catters giving up on that. He's looking for the undercut, and he's just hit the barrier. We saw in the previous development race his teammate do that, and now he's had a shot at it as well, and hopefully that hasn't knocked him back, but that could be the big difference between coming out ahead of Highboy or not when Highboy chooses to pit. Meanwhile, Gundam is chasing down one of the APRT Queensland drivers, so he's on the move. He's got a bit of a head full of steam after that first lap incident, so he's going to really try and charge through and get as many placings back as possible. And here they come into the braking. Gundam's just a bit too far back, or well, fair way back to make any passing manoeuvre. Can't quite tell exactly which APRT car that is at the moment, but either way it's got rear view mirrors full of the HD Motorsport driver. So I think we've been blessed at the moment to have so many close battles, some really excellent racing between all the drivers in the field so far. There have been a few accidents, but that's bound to happen, and being the last round of the year, the drivers aren't going to hold back too much either. They're going to really let loose and try and get their best possible placing for the round. And Gundam, he still needs to pit too. Both these drivers haven't pitted yet, and you can see just some very different driving lines between the two of them. And again, oh, now we're back into the action here. This is Catters. Oh, we just see there Queensland Rum Runner with the next fastest lap into the 144s. That is massive. We haven't seen a fastest lap by him at all this season, but he's managed to get one. And just coming out of pit lane now is Highboy. And can he hold on? Recall has managed to get the jump on Catters, and Catters has made it past Highboy. So Highboy's lost out in his in and out laps. Catters has made a gain, Ninja hasn't, but meanwhile Recoil jumping both of them, so he's really knuckled down and got some great laps in there while these two were pitting over the last couple of laps. So Recoil now is effectively in position 2. We're just trying to locate Uwatchin. He seems to have dropped back from these guys, so Uwatchin doesn't quite have the pace, and I think this is it here. We might, yep, so that's Uwatchin, and he's been hassled now by Alsamo. The only people that seem to have a bit of space around them is Twistie Corners, Fear Bretley and Scavenger on track at the moment. The rest are got somebody right behind them or trying to pass them. So Recoil big gains in the end. You're watching not having the lap times or the speed to contest with the other 4 guys ahead. So Recoil is in second at the moment. We're waiting to see exactly where Fear Bretley is, but we believe he hasn't made much in the way of positions at all. So he must have had some moments where he's lost a lot of time. So with a couple of laps to go, let's just check these placings. Gundam yet to pit, so he's gained a spot, but he will drop back once he's finished his compulsory pit stop. Meanwhile Highboy leads Ninja, who has still gained quite a number of spots, and you're watching a big loser there starting from second on the grid, has dropped back to 7th and possibly 8th if he's not careful, with Alsamo right there behind him. Meanwhile, Gohard and Scavenger Bretley following up at the rear with Queensland Rumrunner about to. He would have pitted just this lap, so he's had a bit of a bad run as well. Meanwhile, Catters with a move on Recoil side by side, going for the dive. He's still chasing around, but bit of a shallow exit, and it looks like Recoil's got the better traction. And meanwhile, Ninja has got ahead of Highboy. It looks like there might have been an incident involved amongst them. We'll hopefully have a look at that because Ninja was a fair way back when on the approach to turn 6 with Highboy. Meanwhile, Catters trying to serve it up to Recoil, and we've seen with Catters, he had a strong patch there in the mid to late section of this series, but has since struggled to finish off races. So this is a very good outing for the Screwdriver Racing young gun. Ooh, and a little bit sideways, but if he can hold on here for another lap, then he will get himself a podium to finish off the season, which would be a great result. And we can just see here's our race leader. So he's at turn 2, Twistie, turn 2, turn 3, just as the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th were approaching and exiting turn 1. So there's a bit of a gap back there. Not massive, but still very, very dominant display so far from the APRT big driver. And here we go. So here's Ninja. Oh, so just a little bit too late under the brakes. Hasn't managed to spin Highboy around, which is good. Highboy's lost a bit of time, but not a whole lot. Lost position. That'll be looked at by the stewards for sure. And here's Scavenger. Can't see who he's battling with at the moment, but he's had a bit of a tap to the back right panel there. You can see the aero on the vehicle is pretty damaged. Meanwhile, Alsamo has managed to get past Uwatchin, and there's Bretley, who's trying to hunt down Scavenger, and normally Bretley's pretty quick, so I imagine he's accepted where he's at in this race and is probably just putting some laps down and not really too concerned of how fast he's going. Otherwise I'd imagine he would have caught these guys fairly quickly, but Scavenger just needs to hold on for another lap and a bit to keep that position away from the Fear Racing driver. And here we've got Highboy, who's had a bit of bad luck in the back end of this race. Twistie Corners just ticking over onto the final lap now. The last lap of 2013 for the RGL Forza Championships. And there's Alcimo leading the way from you watching as they head around, and here's Gundam. This is another neck and neck. This is showing how much Gundam's caught up with these guys, and he's managed to get ahead of you watching. So you watch and drop another spot, and now Gundam going to see whether he can get at least another spot back if he can pass Alcimo in this final lap. He's given it his all on cold tyres. He's not that far behind. If he's got the momentum here, he might be able to make a move at turn 6, the hairpin. And he's there side by side. And I think he might have him here if he can break the right point. They both go around together. And it looks like Gundam might have him, depending on his exit speed out of this corner. And they're still side by side. Gundam with the inside line, but Alcimo pushing harder around the outside. They go by side through that corner. That's pretty crazy stuff. And Alcimo, with a bit of guts, has managed to defend that position from Gundam. He wasn't in the best position there to do it. Oh no, now Gundam trying to respond. Oh, got a little bit sideways and lost some traction. There goes you watching, really hanging the back end of the APRT car around that corner. But whoa, that was very intense stuff. Gutsy driving by Alcimo. Meanwhile, Twistie starting the party. He's got the championship wrapped up already, so it didn't matter if he stuffed up and came second, but he's done it celebrating. Congratulations to Twistie Corners, the RGL V8 Supercar Series Championship winner. And you can just see these guys neck and neck all the way. What a finish to the race and the season, with Gundam trying to do his best to get past Alcimo. Meanwhile, looking at the final results for this race, Twistie well ahead of Recoil, who was in second. Cutters rounding out the podium placings, and we can see Fear Bretley rounding out the final place, with Queensland Rum Runner not actually finishing. Moving on to the championship standings, the final standings for 2013. Congratulations once again to Twistie Corners, winning by a massive 237 points over Fear Bretley. Then Recoil and Cutters in a tight fight for position 3. Recoil claiming that one. And we can see there Jake Mo dropping down the list with quite a lot of DNFs at the end of the season. And with the Constructors title here, we can see APRT Racing Victoria smashing it out, with Recoil and Highboy for Taztec coming in second. And as tradition goes, here is Twistie Corners with his burnout celebration for winning the V8 Supercar Championship title for the RGL Australia Forza Championships. We will see you again in the future at some point. Thank you very much for watching this series, the development series, and all the other ones over the last few years. And if we have any more projects on the rise, you'll see them here on our channel. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.